Bear Hug, written by Maria Hennings Hunt, illustrated by Sarah Leah Wills. Bear Hug is amazing. Everybody loves him because he can make anyone feel better just by giving them a great big hug. When Rabbit hurt his paw, Bear Hug wrapped his big soft furry arms around him and gave him a great big hug, and Rabbit's paw didn't hurt so much. Mouse was scared when she got lost in the forest. Bear Hug found her and scooped her up in his big snuggly arms and gave her a great big hug, and all the scary feelings went away. Sometimes, even if you felt just a little bit sad, one great big hug from Bear Hug could make you feel all happy again. But one day, something happened. Bear Hug woke up one morning and he felt sad. Rabbit came to see Bear Hug. "Hello, Bear Hug," he said. "How are you?" "Hello, Rabbit," said Bear Hug. "I feel a bit sad today." "You need a great big hug," said Rabbit, "and then you'll feel much better." Bear Hug nodded sadly. "But who is big enough to give me a great big hug?" Rabbit looked up at Bear Hug. He couldn't think of anyone big enough either. "I'll go and find Squirrel," said Rabbit. "Maybe he can think of someone big enough to give you a great big hug." And off he went. Fox came to see Bear Hug. "Hello, Bear Hug," he said. "How are you?" "Hello, Fox," said Bear Hug. "I feel a bit sad today." "Oh, you need a great big hug," said Fox, "and you'll feel much better." Bear Hug nodded sadly. "But who is big enough to give me a great big hug?" Fox looked up at Bear Hug. He couldn't think of anyone big enough either. "I'll go and find Rabbit," said Fox. "Maybe he can think of someone big enough to give you a great big hug." And off he went. Beaver and Badger came to see Bear Hug. "Hello, Bear Hug," they said. "How are you?" "Oh, hello, you two," said Bear Hug. "I feel a bit sad today." "You need a great big hug," they said, "and then you'll feel much better." Bear Hug nodded sadly. "But who's big enough to give me a great big hug?" Badger and Beaver looked up at Bear Hug. They couldn't think of anyone big enough either. Let's go and see if we can find others," they said. "Maybe together we can think of someone big enough to give you a great big hug." And off they went. Bear Hug felt very, very sad. He really wanted a great big hug. He closed his eyes and gave a great big sigh. When he opened his eyes again, he saw all of his friends walking towards him. "Hello, Bear Hug," they said. "Are you feeling a bit sad?" "Yes," said Bear Hug. "Have you found someone big enough to give me a hug?" Rabbit shook his head. "No," he said. "But don't be sad. We have an idea." "We couldn't think of anyone big enough to give you a hug just by themselves," said Squirrel. "But," said Badger and Beaver, "if we all join hands together, we can all give you a great big hug at the same time." So all the animals held on tight to each other and they made a great big circle around Bear Hug. And they hugged. They hugged and hugged until Bear Hug didn't feel sad anymore. Not even a little bit. And they kept on hugging until they had given Bear Hug the greatest, biggest, huggiest, great big hug